Which novels were pummeled in the face more times than Andrew Tate at a preschooler's karate class? This is Exploding Chimney. At number 5, Katerina by James Frey. Forgiven by the publishing world after taking his punishment beating from Oprah for his untruthy memoir A Million Little Pieces, James Frey's 2018 novel about an ageing writer lusting after a lover from his youth had its teeth knocked out and stamped on by the critics. Referring to the toxic masculinity of protagonist Jay, a rich writer plagued with a bad case of the boo-hoos, Alexander Larman in The Guardian went for the jugular. Were Harvey Weinstein not awaiting trial on charges of sexual assault, he would undoubtedly be first in line to buy the film rights. Claire Fallon at HuffPost noted Gray's phallic fixation. The star of nearly every page, though, is Jay's cock. The fucking is relentless, but, as in 50 Shades of Grey, the result is more banal than titillating or revelatory. Everything is hard and wet and deep. And one reader on Goodreads put it succinctly, the sheer narcissism and entitlement of this novel poured bleach on my soul. At number 4, Bob Honey Who Just Do Stuff by Sean Penn. Sean Penn, an actor from America, his most famous American film is Hugo Pool, published this satirical novel in 2018 to howls of unhappiness from critics and readers alike. The book concerns Bob Honey who, as the title indicates, just do stuff, such as throwing himself into the Pacific Ocean and becoming an international assassin whose forte is bumping off old-age pensioners with a mallet. The novel was savaged for its ham-fisted attempt to shoehorn references to the Trump administration and the Me Too movement, along with its overuse of alliteration and general verbosity. Mark Hale at crack.com opined, Penn writes like he's looked up every single word in his thesaurus except dictionary. Sam Cain in The Guardian called it repellent and stupid on so many levels, while Sarah S. on Goodreads summed it up with pith, noiseless, senseless and masturbatory, an unfortunate use of paper. On the other hand, Sarah Silverman thinks it's a straight-up masterwork. An excerpt. Bob passes a feature film fourplex and formerly Divine Deco drive-in. He realises that not only in the road-roaming reality has romance been relinquished to ruins, but the cinemas themselves have been caged and quartered into quixotic, concrete calamities of corporatised culture capitulation. Phew. At number 3, Winkler by Giles Coren. Coren, an Oxbridge journalist from a famous family paid to eat and review slap-up meals for broadsheet newspapers, had a hankering for literary success after his father, the minor comic novelist Alan Coren. His first novel, Winkler, no allusion to the Fonz, was his attempt to write a raunchy meditation on modern Jewish man in the manner of Philip Roth or Howard Jacobson. The result was an embarrassing fumble of bad writing, next to no editing, and an absolute howler of a sex scene that won the Bad Sex Award in 2005. Reading this passage would have me banned from YouTube, so if you want to experience a sensation of nausea that will never ever leave you, pause the video now. The critical backlash was so traumatic for Coren, he commissioned a Sky documentary as to why his first novel failed, as is the wont of entitled wetmails in the British media. A cringe-inducing watch where the frustrated Coren submits himself to floggings from a writer's workshop and begs Jeffrey Archer for insights into how to parse an acceptable English sentence. In the words of the man himself, ha 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 ha. At number 2, List of the Lost by Morrissey. Former The Smiths frontman was on a high from the critical success of his autobiography and had yet to find himself mired in muck around his mutton-headed support for far-right Britain First when he published his first novel. As a chronicler of working-class alienation and the torment of unrequited love in the bleak, loveless North, List of the Lost is naturally about a Boston relay team in the 1970s offing a homeless person with hilarious consequences. The consensus was that with Stephen Patrick's prose, the senses being dulled were ours. The Daily Beast called the book a bizarre misogynistic ramble, the NME a confused, often quite embarrassing slab of cringeworthy sex cliches and bizarre stilted dialogue, and the Observer opined that the spineless mandarins at Penguin who brought this to print should be ashamed of themselves. Positive reviews were as hard to pin down as a release date for Bonfire of the Teenagers. Morrissey has since been silent on the novel front, or as he might put it, all quiet, all still in this decent and pleasant atmosphere of slumber and repose, where lush houses of beddy-by shut-eye snoozled in sleepland, a smiling sleep of dreamland. At number 1, Yellow Dog by Martin Amis. Nepo babies have blighted the world for generations, from Pliny the Younger to Mary Shelley to Brooklyn Beckham. One writer was afflicted with the label before the label was even a label. That man is Martin Amis. Since publishing the Rachel papers, aged 23, the smouldering son of Kingsley was joined at the head to his father's legacy, with his detractors citing his privilege as a reason for his whopping book advances and the routinely lavish broadsheet praise. So when Yellow Dog was published in 2003, the haters sank their fangs in with glorious abandon. A muddled and indulgent comic novel of underworld sexual abuse, revenge, and murder, and something about a comet hurtling to Earth, the novel took a deserved pounding for its incoherence and silliness. The New York Times described the novel as like a send-up of a Martin Amis novel written by someone intent on sabotaging his reputation. It bears as much resemblance to Mr. Amis's best fiction as a bad karaoke singer does to Frank Sinatra, as a kitchen magnet of Munch's Scream does to the real painting. The Independent called it a joyless, boring long-haul flight to nowhere. The Independent on Sunday, a strange, sad stew of a novel. The Washington Post, like a midlife crisis, a writer's equivalent of buying a sports car and running off with a woman half his age. And some bloke on Goodreads, utter excretion, a pail full of vomit. The most infamous drubbing came from Tibor Fisher, who wrote, Yellow Dog isn't bad as in not very good or slightly disappointing. It's not knowing where to look bad. It's like your favourite uncle being caught at a school playground, masturbating. Has any writer, living or dead, ever received a worse review? That was 5 novels from the 21st century that were repeatedly pummeled in the face. You've been watching Exploding Chimney. Goodbye.